You know, another thing would make some of y'all so stupid and dumb, and you should get out of trucking. What makes this illegal? There's plenty of reasons why this is illegal. How the two motor carriers be responsible for safety on the same IRP? It ain't possible. Dumb motherfuckers.
We broke this story yesterday afternoon here on WKRG with exclusive dash cam footage of the impact. You're about to see that video, and it is very difficult to watch. As WKRG News 5's Haley Kennedy explains, that truck driver is not from America, and the FBI is now investigating.
Truck driver Andrii Dmyterko of 4US Freight / 4US Corporation / 4US Transportation was arrested last week on charges of vehicular homicide. The incident resulted in the deaths of two individuals, Ashley McDonald, a single mother, and Woodie Beck, a beloved high school coach. 4 others were injured in this tragic incident, but their injuries are non-life-threatening, and one of them has already filed a lawsuit, perhaps the first of many. Now, footage that's been shown of this incident was so graphic that I don't even think that I can even show this on YouTube to be compliant with their guidelines. You guys can see images right now on your screen. They're blurred out, but if you guys want to see the uncensored version, the link to that will be in the description box down below. And as you can see, the accident, this is the aftermath. The cars in these photos just look unrecognizable. Some of them did catch on fire. I forget how many vehicles were actually involved in the incident, but unfortunately, people have lost their lives. People have their lives ruined unnecessarily. This definitely could have been prevented. Speaking of which, there is speculation out there that this accident was not no accident, rather it was intentional, an act of terrorism. And the reason why people are speculating this is because of the video footage and the fact that the feds had to get involved. Again, more on this later. Now, personally, I don't think that this was intentional. A statement that's in court records claims that he was on the phone with his wife. So therefore, this was a distracted driving incident. There was an incident that's kind of similar to this where a driver looked down on his phone and texted his wife for 8 seconds, and he plowed into stop traffic. Unfortunately, somebody did lose their life. Now, if you look at the images, you look at the video side by side, you see that the driver that was on his phone texting his wife for about 8 seconds actually stopped, even though it was too late. But the driver that plowed into stop traffic last week, he didn't even make an effort to stop, it seems like. And this is, in fact, validated by reports. People have said that he didn't even make an effort to step on his brakes. So why? Why is that? Why didn't he use his brakes? His brakes were fine. Now, when interacting with first responders, Dmyterko could speak very, very little English. He also had a co-driver that also could not speak English at all. So because of this, they had to use an interpreter in order to break that communication barrier. So yes, this incident further reinforces the growing hostility against foreign truck drivers.
Welcome to today's TikTok on CDL drivers, commercial driver's license holders, driving in tractor trailers that cannot speak English, cannot read it, cannot write it, cannot comprehend it, and cannot effectively communicate with law enforcement, other first responders. They cannot read and understand what the road signs say. And law enforcement agencies around the country have been told by the federal government a few years ago to ignore the rule that requires that truck drivers be able to proficiently read and speak English. You can rush them through a CDL school and send them to a shady trucking company to get their start. And then you can dump them in the driver pool, and they're going to work cheap, and they're going to run with very cheap rates that because they are used to a lifestyle that we are not accustomed to and we do not want. We want a better lifestyle for us, our families, our kids. They don't care. They came from a place where that's just not a big importance to them to live at the same quality of lifestyle that we do.
Now, there are conflicting reports about the ethnicity of the truck driver. Some people say that he's Ukrainian, that speaks Russian. Court documents say that he is, in fact, Russian. It's worth noting that the company that he worked for is actually owned by Ukrainian CEO Eli Malkovsky. At least to my knowledge, he owns 4US Corporation. I don't know about the other companies. Maybe he owns them, maybe he doesn't own them. Who knows what's going on here? But all 3 companies have different addresses, and they all have different MCDOT numbers. All very strange, all very sketchy. Now, a lawsuit was filed by one of the victims that was injured in this incident, as mentioned earlier. Her name is Nancy Calvert, and she lists all three companies: 4US Transportation, 4US Freight, 4US Corporation, along with Dmyterko in the lawsuit. Now, when you look up 4US Freight and 4US Corporation and you go to their websites, you see the same animation and design, the same color scheme, so they're pretty much the same company. At least that's the conclusion that I'm coming to. But yeah, there's nothing suspicious about that. Like I said, different DOT numbers, different addresses, but the same company.
You know, another thing would make some of y'all so stupid and dumb. Yeah, you should get out of trucking. What makes this illegal? There's plenty of reasons why this is illegal. How the two motor carriers be responsible for safety on the same IRP? It ain't possible. Dumb motherfuckers.
In fact, Bonehead Truckers host Ike Stevens looked up the address for 4US Freight, and you won't even believe what came up.
Darien, Illinois. You got that address? Okay, all right. I already looked it up here. It absolutely is. You guys can fact check me if you want. 7532 South Cass Avenue, Unit B, right?
So yes, guys, a trucking company that's operating out of Dunkin' Donuts. You can't make this up. Like, guys, it's totally believable. It's nothing suspicious at all.
Vladimir doing Vladimir things. Chicago style.
See, this is exactly why it's hard out here for new authorities. This is exactly why these brokers telling y'all now that they need 180 days of authority before they work with you. This is exactly why in the state of Arkansas there are implemented laws where you cannot use visas in replacement of CDL licenses for you to be able to drive commercial vehicles. This is exactly why brokers are not accepting drivers who pull up to shippers with taped on MC numbers. This is exactly why brokers are asking you for a picture of the numbers on the side of your truck. And no, I'm not saying that all migrant workers or international people are doing things unethically. But what I am saying is that it's a vast majority of y'all that's out here doing stupid stuff like this right here.
So looking up the other address of 4US Corporation, we see that the company operates out of a social security office, it operates out of a law firm, and it also operates out of a tax firm, which is very, very ironic considering that Chicago trucking companies, they usually hire contractors, quote unquote contractors, when sometimes these people are, in fact, not sometimes, most of the time, a lot of these people are misclassified as contractors. They're in fact employees because, you know, the companies, they want to avoid paying their fair share. They want to get around paying payroll taxes. So they shift the tax burden to you. Meanwhile, they allegedly launder your deductions in offshore accounts. Again, allegedly, this is a conspiracy theory channel.
So I got a call from a client. He wanted me to look over his documents. I said, okay, no problem, right? So we did a tax consultation. And what I discovered is that this man is a company man, as he says it. He is an employee of a transportation company, but they pay him a 1099. The problem with that is the company is covering all of the expenses. I asked him, I said, okay, so do you have to come out of pocket with anything, right? Anything at all that he can deduct as a write-off on his taxes? And he said, no, they take care of it all. And for most of them that are making great money, making, you know, a little over six figures, they end up owing the IRS $20,000+. See, what these companies are doing is they don't want to pay payroll taxes. So they're leaving the liability of payroll taxes to the driver.
In addition, I found on social media that a random person commented on the lawsuit situation, and he said something along the lines of, good luck finding the owner of the actual company. Well, I did mention earlier that the owner of 4US Corporation, see, it's confusing. The owner is Eli Malkovitsky, and he may be right. The comment that, you know, this random person that made that comment, he may be right because, you know, Nancy Calvert and her attorneys tried to reach out to these companies and they had a hard time doing so. And can you blame them? Because where are they located? They're not located at Dunkin' Donuts. I doubt they're located at the tax firm. But not only are these addresses invalid, they're also illegal. Journalist Tanya Iser actually exposed this very thing in an investigation. Take a look.
And this building right here, 20 trucking companies call it home. For as little as $8 a month, anybody can set up shop here. No truck required. It's also illegal And here's why. When a trucking company registers with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA, it must list its principal place of business. It's where the company's supposed to keep driver and safety records, and where federal regulators can show up to inspect those records. Building in Signal Hill, California. Doesn't look like the headquarters of hundreds of trucking companies, right? But federal records show nearly 700 freight companies tied to this single address. Roughly 500 of those companies list the same email. WTF, FMCSA at AOL.com.
Yes, WTF FMCSA, because what is the FMCSA even doing? They never seem to do anything, them along with the DOT. In fact, I'm happy that the feds got involved with this investigation. Maybe something will actually finally change. This truck driver, he was in fact here on a work visa. Now, Immigration and Customs Enforcement got involved and they revoked his work visa, but unfortunately, it's too late because what difference does it make? He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison anyway. But yeah, like I said, absolutely nothing happens until it's too late. There's a fatality, lives are ruined, lawsuits are filed. You can report on it, you can do investigative journalism, you can call it out, but nothing happens, and we're tired. We are honestly tired of reporting on stories like this. And yes, it's not just foreign truck drivers. We have American truck drivers that go to these shady companies for one reason or another, and they get exploited and taken advantage of. I actually covered a driver on my channel a couple of weeks ago. He works for a Chicago trucking company. I won't mention his name. You can go watch the video for yourself. But some people didn't like what I had to say. Some people thought it was too harsh. But the reason why I made that video is to highlight the fact that, hey, listen, it's probably not healthy to run 1,200 miles a day, 20 hours a day, every single day. It's illegal, it's unethical, and it's unhealthy. So because he posts his information to the internet, it's fair game to criticize him, and that's just my opinion. And the fact that this person, who is a public figure, he constantly posts his pay stubs online for people to see, flaunting a $3,600 fuel bill in 1 week, which is mathematically impossible for a solo driver unless he was running 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 miles a week. But me calling him out should really be the least of his worries, because at the end of the day, say he gets into a really, really bad accident, well, his ass is going to be thrown in prison for the rest of his life, and this company that he works for, they're probably going to be hard to reach, like 4US Freight, 4US Corporation, 4US Transportation. They'll probably disappear, go ghost zone, along with all the money that they launder in their offshore accounts. Allegedly, of course, Conspiracy Theory Channel. Hey guys, sorry about that. My audio got cut off by the end of that video, but as I was saying, if you enjoy content like this, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. I'm Tasia Woods, and I'll see you next time.